I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 14, Dr. Plotkin. This is the manufacturer insert for HIB, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If we go to section 6.1, which is the clinical trials experience, I believe you'll see it addresses a number of clinical trials that were performed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what were the safety review periods in these trials?
48 hours yes.
Actually, if you turn to page 8, Dr. Plotkin, they did one that actually was 30 days long, correct?
Say again?
I said if you turn to page 8 of the insert, one of the clinical trials they did actually did do a 30-day follow-up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to read you a sentence from the paragraph at the bottom of that page. It says, in study P3206, within 30 days following any dose 1 through 3 of Daptocel plus IPOL plus HIB vaccinees, 50 of 1,455, that's 3.4%, participants experienced a serious adverse event.
Yes.
Now, if one way to establish whether or not those adverse events were related to the vaccine was to have a placebo group, a control group receiving an inert substance, correct?
That's one way.
That's right. But there wasn't a control group here receiving an inert substance, correct?
As far as it says, no.
Right. And the control group here received other vaccines, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, there does appear to be, for those 4 anyway. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Sorry. Yeah. No, anyway, so since there is no placebo group receiving a inert substance, then it's left to the vaccine manufacturer seeking licensure to determine whether or not the adverse events that arose are or not related to the vaccine, correct?
Generally speaking, studies organized by manufacturers or anybody else for that matter of vaccines has a safety board attached to the study, and they evaluate whether they think the reaction was due to the vaccine or not. As it says here, only one of the serious adverse events was attributed to the vaccine, which was a seizure with apnea occurring on the day of vaccination after the first dose, which is, in 7,000 infants, and a vaccine that prevents meningitis and other serious diseases is not too bad.
Right. So let's look at that more carefully. This is out of 1,455, correct?
Yes.
And it was 50 children that had a serious adverse event within 30 days, correct?
Annabelle, please be quiet.
And
They had, let's see, where is that?
That's the bottom of page 8.
Yes, but you have to understand what is meant by a serious adverse event. They try to accumulate all things that happen to children in a trial. And when they say it's serious, they mean it's not something like pain in the arm or something that's relatively trivial. And then they evaluate whether or not the serious adverse event could be related to the vaccine or not. And what this says is that only one of those events was attributed to the vaccine.
That's right. That's exactly what this says. What
Yes.
And you told me that the people that evaluate that is a board set up by the company and that the pharmaceutical company is seeking approval, correct?
Yes, they set up the board and they choose individuals who are not employees of the company.
But they choose the individuals, correct?
They choose the individuals, yes.
In your experience, Dr. Plotkin, in any given 30-day period, do 3.4% of children in this country experience a serious adverse event?
Yes, that's quite possible.
Okay. In your experience, would you expect 3.4% of children receiving a saline injection to experience a serious adverse event within 30 days of receiving the injection?
That's what that means, yes.
Okay, so 3.4% every month, that would mean within 3 years, every child in this country would experience a serious adverse event, correct?
Yes,
That's
correct.
right.
But
Okay.
you have to understand that serious adverse events mean, for example, that a child develops a respiratory infection during the period of the trial. And then the question is, could that respiratory infection be attributed to the vaccine? And the board decides whether or not it's likely that a vaccine could cause a respiratory infection 2 or 3 weeks after the vaccination, for example.
Wasn't there recently a study out of Hong Kong in which it was actually one of a few randomized placebo-controlled studies in which some children were randomly got flu vaccine and others didn't get the flu shot, and those that got the flu shot and those who didn't had the same rate of flu, but those who got the flu shot were 4 times more likely to get certain other respiratory infections?
I have not read that particular study.
We can get to it later.
But influenza vaccine is a whole story in itself.
Okay. That's fine if you haven't read it. That's we can get to it. I have it. We'll come back to it.